Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a quick little comparison between the iPhone 12 and the Samsung Galaxy A52. Now, the A52 is the latest and greatest from the Samsung A series of devices. The iPhone 12 is also kind of like a budget phone, but not really. You can pick up an A52 for like around $400. The iPhone 12 is around $800 brand new. So if you want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell the Samsung Galaxy A52 is definitely the bigger phone between them, and it also looks fairly newer. The iPhone 12 has a little bit less bezel around it, but the A52 definitely looks better, I think. The iPhone 12 has that 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it's definitely a better looking panel than the Samsung Galaxy A52 as far as I can tell. The viewing angles are greater, the colors look sharper, and it just looks like a more premium panel. However, the Samsung Galaxy A52, I think, has a better looking kind of design to it. You have the hole punch display up top, a little bit of a thicker bezel around the whole entire phone, but not that bad. The display itself has a 90 Hz refresh rate, which is actually pretty surprising for a budget tier phone. But I think, again, when you compare it to the iPhone 12, I think it's pretty close, but it's not necessarily up there. I think the iPhone 12 looks better, but I really do like how the A52 has a 90 Hz refresh rate and a hole punch display for a budget tier device. The iPhone 12 is not, just kind of getting old at this point. Flipping to the side, you can definitely see the thickness and thinness about the same, definitely not that big of a difference. I think the Galaxy A52 is a thicker phone though. And on the back, glass back on the iPhone 12, plastic back on the Galaxy A52, so definitely keep that in mind. No wireless charging on the A52. The iPhone 12 does have, wireless charging on it, which is really cool. A kind of a quadruple camera setup on the Samsung Galaxy A52. I can't even say that right. iPhone 12 has a dual camera setup, a lightning port on the iPhone 12, USB-C on the Samsung Galaxy A52. Both have IP certification, but the IP certification on the iPhone 12 is a little bit better. And that really pretty much covers up a majority of the outside. They're both fairly similar in so many different ways, but I definitely would say the iPhone 12 feels and looks a little bit more premium. But I think the A52 looks like it's the more better front, at least, in terms of like the 90 Hz refresh rate and the hole punch display. So in terms of that covers it up there. Now, software-wise, this is probably one of the bigger differences. The A series of devices are a little bit different as far as I can tell from the S series. It doesn't seem like their software is as good as something like, like the S21 in terms of longevity and security updates and all that stuff. The iPhone is going to outlast the A52 any way you put it. This phone is going to completely obliterate the A52 in the software department. I feel like Samsung's really kind of picking up the pace though, and they're definitely getting better. So shout out to Samsung for that. But right now the iPhone 12 I think is still superior in that aspect. But there is another area though where the A52 is actually pretty decent in, and that's the battery size specifically and the battery life. I feel like the battery size and life is actually better on something like a Galaxy A52. I think this is over a 4,000 mAh battery where you have here, where on the iPhone 12 it's less than 3,000 mAh. And I think the main advantage the iPhone 12 here though is that it does have wireless charging. But the Galaxy A52 is definitely going to dominate in the battery department. All the reviews, everything I've heard about this phone so far, it does have, a great battery life. And it has a headphone jack on the bottom, I just realized. So that's another plus point for this phone over the iPhone 12. So I feel like in this specific area, it comes down to two things. Do you like the software experience more, it being more stock and it having a long life, or do you like battery life more? If you like battery life more, the Galaxy A52 is definitely the better way to go. If you're somebody who likes software and you like longevity and you want to get a phone today and not have to worry about it for many years, the iPhone 12 is definitely your type of phone you'd probably recommend. So in terms of that covers up one of the more bigger differences between these two phones. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between these two devices. The iPhone 12 has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM, where the Galaxy A52 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G chipset inside of it with 4 GB of RAM on the base model, and it goes up to 8 GB of RAM on the top tier model. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, all the apps should be cleared out in the background. As you guys can see, on the iPhone 12 it's good, on the Samsung it's good. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And I mean, you guys can kind of see what was going on there. I think the iPhone 12 was definitely faster. Let's do their app stores. 3, 2, 1. And you can see the iPhone 12, I think, was a little bit slower actually there. It took me a second to even register that I was switching the phones. So there we go. Kind of scrolling through. Again, the 90 Hz refresh rate on the A52, I think helps it out a lot. Innovation speed though wise, I think the iPhone 12 looks smoother. You can tell the A52 is a little glitchy, but that is a pretty minor app when it comes down to it. Let's do their cameras. 3, 2, 1. And pretty close. Maybe the iPhone 12 was better, but I think you guys can be able to tell over the camera. As always, I have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go and get into. Let's do BOFA. 3, 2, 1. And A52 I think was slightly faster. than the iPhone 12 in that case. Let's do Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the iPhone 12 was quite ahead of the A52. I'm not really too sure what was going on with this specific device right here. It was glitching up. I don't know what happened there. So I guess we will have to give the A52 some benefit of the doubt. That was very strange. I don't know why that glitch happened right there, but we'll kind of let that one breathe a little bit. Getting into some gameplay though. Let's see if there's a ginormous difference. And I want to say there's not, but there is somewhat of a watered down chipset on the A52. So you can see kind of, playing this very basic game that the A52 seemed to be doing pretty good. I'm expecting the iPhone 12 to do pretty good no matter what, but the A52 I think did a pretty decent job there too. Hopping out of this one, let's do Fruit Ninja 3, 2, 1. I just really wish the Temple Run 2 didn't glitch up on that specific device. And the iPhone 12 is loaded. The A52 was right behind it. There wasn't really that big of a difference. You can see when I'm kind of sliding through everything that they both look pretty similar. So there's not really that big of a difference between that one. Let's get into which Instagram I don't have here. Let's go into Dropbox 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 was faster there. Hopping out of this one, Quizlet 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone 12 again was the faster one there. Hopping out of this one, let's go ahead and do something like Facebook, which I don't have here surprisingly. Oh, right here, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 12 is faster. A52 a little bit behind. Snake versus Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And you can see right there, A52 was faster. iPhone 12 actually a little bit behind there. Very surprising. Getting into some gameplay, again, as always, there may be a few differences here and there, but for the most part, it does look pretty good, which I'm really happy about. Hopping out of this specific app, we can go ahead and do something like Thank You, 3, 2, 1, which I don't know why I still do this game. I think it's a great game. I've never played it that often, but for some reason I talk about it. A52 was faster there. Now, one thing I want to show you is the actual, kind of messing around with the actual object itself. And you can see that it does look pretty similar on both, so not a ginormous difference, but the A52 does seem to be faster there, which was very surprising. Hopping out of there, I think that pretty much covers up a majority of apps that I wanted to test. I think ultimately, I don't think there's one, winner that's winning every single time. I think both of them are fairly close. I think maybe the A52, there we go, RAM management, the A52 didn't do quite well there. But I think when it comes down to it, dude, they both are very similar. I think the iPhone 12 may do better in the RAM management. And I don't know if one phone is necessarily the better one when it came down to the actual, app opening or all that stuff. So I think when it comes down to the speed comparison, both are very close. I think the iPhone 12 is smoother in app opening and stuff. But the A52, I think, held its own for being a cheaper phone, almost half the price as something like an iPhone 12. So in terms of that, that covers it up in the speed comparison. Let's go and hit on the cameras. Now on the back, as I mentioned before, the iPhone 12 has that dual camera setup. The A52 has that quadruple camera setup, a wide and an ultra wide sensor. The A52 has a wide, ultra wide macro and depth lens with that flash right here. Now I think a majority of you know this by now, but the iPhone 12's camera is a solid camera for sure. This is a very good camera. I've had very little issues with it. It's stable. You can do 4K at 60 on the front and back, and it's just a very good camera. No matter which way, no matter what's wrong with it, I will never complain about the quality of iPhone's cameras. I think sometimes their mic quality isn't that great, and I also think sometimes, there could be an improvement on some more features, the UI of it. There's definitely not a crazy amount of features added here, and that's something the A52 kind of kills it in, is the amount of features for that budget tier model. But as I mentioned before, for a $800 camera, this is definitely a solid camera lens, and I probably would be happy with using it on an everyday basis. I pretty much use this camera on an everyday basis. I have an iPhone 12 Pro, and this camera for sure is solid. Now on the flip side with something like the A52, functionality wise, it is pretty much the same. You have that ultra wide sensor as well, so I think that's really cool. A major thing though with that macro and depth lens, I don't really even know what you use those for, so you can go ahead and use those if you want to. I'm not going to use those as selling points. There's no telephoto lens or anything like that. You do have 4K at 30 on the back, which is kind of sad. I was hoping 4K at 60, but a good thing is you do have 4K at 30 on the front of this phone. Again, no 4K at 60 on either one of these lenses, but I think that is a plus point for this type of price range. I actually do think the camera of this thing is pretty solid. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, if you're going to look at the specific camera and be, kind of pinpoint on one thing, I really do think that this specific camera lens is actually a pretty good thing. And I'll probably do a full camera review of this thing whenever, I do a full review of this phone. But I think for sure when it comes down to it, this camera lens is pretty solid. I don't think it's better than the iPhone 12, but the UI, I mean, look how many more features you have. Well, you're looking at it right now. You can see obviously all these other standard things, but you do have things like Pro mode, which I was surprised about. So if you go all the way to the end and you click on Pro right here, you can click on more, you can get these Pro mode options. You don't really have that on iOS, but you do have that on the A52. So I think overall the camera lensing capability on the A52 is pretty good, and I really do like this camera lens for sure. But I just think the iPhone 12's camera is probably the better one when it comes down to it. So that's kind of how it summed that up. Now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you buy a Samsung Galaxy A52 or should you buy an iPhone 12? Well, this is pretty much what I'll tell you. I think if I had to pick up one of these, I would rather have an iPhone 12. This is an easy answer for me. I love iPhones. I love Samsungs too, and I think the A52 is a great phone. But I think the iPhone 12 is probably the more complete flagship when it comes down to it, with a mixture of performance, software, camera, consistency. This is the phone I would recommend. Yes, it's more expensive, but it's also going to retain its value a little bit more. Next year, you're going to be able to sell the iPhone 12 for probably around like $500 something. The A52, so you're only really losing like $300 here, which is like whatever percentage. The A52, I bought it for $400. Next year, it's probably going to go for like $150, to be honest. So you're probably even going to lose more money if you buy an A52 in the long run than an iPhone 12. But with that being said, there are still a lot of reasons to pick up an A52. It's much cheaper right now than the iPhone 12, 400 here or around 400 versus the iPhone 12's 800. You're obviously getting really good cameras on this thing for the budget-tier phone that it is, 90 hertz refresh rate, and a better-looking phone on the front, at least, than the iPhone 12. When you look at these, the A52 may actually look like the more expensive one because it has the whole punch display versus the notch. You're also getting things like a better battery on the Samsung Galaxy A52 versus the iPhone 12, but you're getting wireless charging on the iPhone 12, and I think the phone feels definitely more premium. It gives the more premium vibe on something like an iPhone 12 than on an A52. Like I mentioned before, I think the A52 is a solid phone, and I think for the price tag, you can't go wrong with it. I just am not a fan of the software. There are some glitchiness going on here and there for the frames and all that. I like the 90 hertz, that definitely has an improvement, but I don't know. The 720G chipset, I'm not really obsessed with the G line, like with their cheaper lineup. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do like how this thing has a headphone jack and it has a micro SD card slot as well, and it's a solid phone and the display is pretty good. But I do think, like I mentioned, the iPhone 12 is a better one in my opinion. And I think that's kind of where I'm going to land this video off. If you guys have any questions or if you want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.